Satya Devi Gauravani Prajani Nirvishwadi Pasmati Prasiddharani Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Hare Krishna 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 Hare
Hare
Ram
Hare,
Hare
Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Ram,
Om
Hare
Namo
Hare.
Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om
Om
Namo
Namo
Bhagavate
Bhagavate
Vasudevaya,
Vasudevaya
Bhagavate
Om Namo
Vasudevaya,
Bhagavate
Om Namo
Vasudevaya.
Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
So, just read the text 13, 14 text to concentrate the mind. One must observe a life of celibacy and not fall down. One must undergo the austerity of voluntarily giving up sense enjoyment. One must then control the mind and senses, give charity, be truthful, clean and non-violent, follow the regulative principles, and regularly chant the holy name of the Lord. Thus, the sober and faithful person who knows the religious principles is temporarily purified of all sins performed with his body, words, and mind. These sins are like dried leaves of creepers beneath a bamboo tree, which may be burned by fire, although the roots remain to grow again at the first opportunity. So we read from text 15 today. Kechit kevalaya bhaktya
Kevalaya
vasudeva parayana
Vasudeva Parayana
agam dunvanti katsneya
Vartneya
niharam iva bhaskaraha.
Niharam Namaskara.
Oh wow, this puppet is even bigger than the previous ones.
What I do, Prabhu, I read, and then you make comments on that.
Okay, very
And
good.
then you will, because you can also revise it in due time. Right? Translation put by Sri Prabhupada.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Baat ki jai. Translation. Only a rare person who has adopted complete unerring devotional service to Krishna can uproot the weeds of sinful actions with no possibility that he will revive. He can do this simply by discharging devotional service, just as the sun can immediately dissipate fog by its rays. Support. In the previous verse, Sukdev Goswami gave the example that the dried leaves of the creeper beneath the bamboo tree may be completely burned acid by fire. Although creepers may sprout again because the root is still in the ground. Similarly, because the root of sinful desire is not destroyed in the heart of a person who is cultivating knowledge, but who has no taste for devotional service. There is a possibility that his sinful desires will reappear. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 10.14.4, Triha Stim Bhaktam Udeshe Tivivo Krityanti Ye Trevaya Bodhe Davate. Speculators who undergo great labor to gain a meticulous understanding of the material world by distinguishing between sinful and pious activities, but who are not situated in devotional service, are prone to materialist activities. They may fall down and become implicated in fugitive activities. If one becomes attached to devotional service, however, the desire for material enjoyment are automatically vanquished without separate endeavor. Bhaktaha Prasanubhyo Viraktari Anityache. If one is advanced in Krishna consciousness, material activities, both sinful and pious, automatically becomes distasteful to him. That is the test of Krishna consciousness. Both pious and impious activities are actually due to ignorance because of living entity. As an eternal servant of Krishna, has no need to act for his personal sense gratification. Therefore, as soon as one is reclaimed to the platform of devotional service, He relinquishes his attachment for pious and impious activities and is interested only in what will satisfy Krishna. This process of bhakti, devotion service to Krishna, Vasudeva Prayana, relieves one from the directions of all activities. Since Maharaj Parikshit was a great devotee, the answer of his guru, Sukdev Goswami, concerning Karma Kand and Jnana Kand could not satisfy. Therefore, Sukdev Goswami, knowing very well the heart of his disciple, explained the transitional bliss of devotional service. The word ichit, which are used in this verse, means a few people, but not all. Not everyone can become Krishna consciousness. As Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita 7.3, Manushyanam tasso kaichit yata siddhe yatam yatatam api siddhanam Krishin me vite tattvaha. Out of many thousand among men, one may endure for perfection, and of those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. Practically, no one understands Krishna as he is, for Krishna cannot be understood through pious activities or attainment of the most elevated speculative knowledge. Actually, the highest knowledge consists of understanding Krishna. Unintelligent men who do not understand Krishna are grossly puffed up, thinking that they are liberated or have themselves become Krishna or Narayan. This is ignorance. Yes, sir. To indicate the purity of bhakti, devotional service, Sri Rupa Goswami says in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.1.11, Anyai vilasite sunyam yanam kamade anavtam anukulyam krishnanam tedam bhakti uttama. One who should render transactional loving service to the Supreme Lord, Krishna, favorably and without desire for material profit or gain, through figurative activities of philosophical speculation. That is called pure devotional service. Sri Rupa Goswami further explains that bhakti is Padeshaha Gani Subhada, which means if one takes this to devotional service, all kinds of unnecessary labor and material desires ceases entirely, and one achieves all good fortune. Bhakti is so powerful that it is also said to be moksha, the gutta. In other words, it minimizes the importance of liberation. Non-devotees must undergo material hardships because they are prone to commit some sinful explorative activities. The desire to commit sinful action continues in their heart due to ignorance. These sinful actions are divided into three categories: Pataka, Mahapatak, and Atipatak. And also in two divisions, Prabhada and Aprabhada. Prabhada refers to sinful reactions from which one is suffering at the present, and Aprabhada refers to sources of potential sufferings. When the seeds, beach of sinful reactions have not yet precipitated, the reactions are called Aprabhada. These seeds of sinful action are unseen, but they are unlimited, and no one can taste when they were first planted. Because of Prabhada, sinful reactions that have already precipitated, one is seen to have taken birth in a low family or to be suffering from other miseries. When one takes to devotional service, however, all stages of sinful life, including Parvada, Aparvada, and Bija, are vanquished. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 11.14.19, Lord Krishna tells Uddhava, Yathagane Susam Dharat Riche Kartyo Adhanti Bhasmasati Tatha Mat Prasye Bhaktir Uddhavanam Mastiti Kritnisana. My dear Uddhav, devotional service. In relationship with me, it is like a blazing fire that can burn to ashes all the fuel of sinful activities supplied to it. How devotional services are so vanquishes the reactions of sinful life is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam 3.33.6. In a verse spoken during Lord Kapil Deva's instruction to his mother, Devati. Devati said, Yan namadhe sarv anmukhatir ananda yat parabhavande yat samaranand api kuichit. Sabdo ki स्पर्धे सवन से कालपते पुतः पुंस टू भगवान न्यू तसंत. My dear Lord, if one person born in family of dog eater hears and repeats the chanting of your glories, offers respect to you, and remembers you, is immediately greater than a Brahmin and is therefore eligible to perform sacrifices. Therefore, what is to be said of one who has seen you directly? In Padma Purana, there is a statement that persons whose heart are always attached to devotional service to Lord Krishna are immediately released from all these reactions of sinful life. These reactions generally exist in 4 places. Some of them are ready to produce results immediately. Some are in the form of cheese. Some are unmanifested and some are current. All such reactions are immediately nullified by devotional service. When devotional service is present in one's heart, desires to perform sinful activity have no place there. Sinful life is due to ignorance, which means forgetfulness of one's constitutional position as an eternal servant of God. But when one is fully Krishna consciousness, he realizes that he is God's eternal servant. In this regard, Sri Steve Goswami comments that bhakti may be divided into 2 divisions. Sanat, devotional service that continues increasingly with the faith and love, and Kadati, devotional service that does not continue increasingly, but is sometimes awakened. In the following devotional service, Sanat, Santata, may also be divided into 2 categories. Service performed with slight attachment, and 2, spontaneous devotional service, intermittent devotional service, Kada Kachit, may be divided into 3 categories. Bhasamiri, devotional service in which one is almost attached to Ragha Abhas Shunye Subhat Bhuta, devotional service in which there is no spontaneous love, but one likes to constitutional position of serving, and yes. 3, Abhas Rupa. Abhasa Rupa, a slight glimpse of devotional service. As for atonement, if one has got even a slight glimpse of devotional service, all need to undergo prayaschitta, atonement are superseded. Therefore, atonement is certainly unnecessary when one has achieved spontaneous love, and above that, attachment with love, which are signs of increasing uh, advancement, is kadatik. It is even at this stage of abhasa, true bhakti, all the reactions of the sinful are uprooted and vanquished. Jiv Goswami presses the opinion that the word Pratanasena means that even if one has a desire to commit sinful actions, the root of that desire are vanquished merely by abhasa rupa. The example of Bhaskar, the sun, is most appropriate. The abhas features of bhakti is compared to student, and the accumulation of one's sinful activities compared to fog. Since fog does not spread throughout the sky, the sun need do no more than merely manifest its phases, and the fog immediately disappears. Similarly, if one has even a slight relationship with the devotional service, all the fog of his sinful life is immediately gone. Thank you, Guruji. Hare Krishna. Very, very exhaustive and a long one. Though I've been reading but hardly understanding anything, to be honest. Maybe it may need to see. But if the whole text is divided into 4 to 5 subparts, I think it will be easier for us to understand. So you can make your comments on this, please. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much. So I think this is continuation of the earlier verse. Only a rare person who has adopted complete unalloyed devotional service can uproot the weeds. So the last verse, if you see, just one minute. So the sins are like dried leaves of the creepers beneath a bamboo tree, which may be burned by fire, but their roots remain, and so they again grow. And like the creeper grows again, there are weeds that come along with that, and which are offshoots and which further flame the growth. So dried leaves of creepers may be completely burned, but they sprout again. Similarly, the root of sinful desire is not destroyed in the heart of a person who is cultivating knowledge, but who has no taste for devotional service. So here is important taste for devotional service. And then there is no possibility that sinful desires will go. So if we think that we continue with this material life, do a little bit of devotional service or sadhana, then there is, Prabhupada is clearly telling here that it's not possible to completely cut down the uh, creeper again unless it is uprooted from the root, and the weeds will grow again and again. So this is something that we have to be very careful of. We read again and again and discussed the past few verses and from Bhagavad Gita that here one has to be careful of Maya, because it is not that just because we chant some rounds, we do some devotional service, eat prasadam, it is not that we will not be attracted by Maya. And again, in these two verses, it is said that these are underlying, and at any time, Maya can overcome our differences. So we have to be extremely careful. So speculators who undergo great labor to gain a meticulous understanding of the material world, and they distinguish pious and unpious, sinful and pious activities. But they are not situated in devotional service, are again prone to material activities. This again is, if one becomes attached to devotional service, again the material enjoyment is automatically vanquished. So if you go by speculation, try to understand what is sinful, what is pious. So again, there is no spontaneity. One is 100% in devotional service. Every action that you do would be for Krishna, and you would not do anything for yourself or anything that is material. In such a case, there is no thought process that whether it is pious, it is sinful, because everything is dovetailed to service of Krishna. But once one starts, again, few verses ago, we see that Sukadeva Goswami has asked Parikshit, and Parikshit Maharaj asked like how to atone for all these sins. So if one starts speculating, what is the sin that I do? What is atonement? How can I get out of this cycle? Then that is all speculation, where one is trying to find a way out of leading a simple way of life. There is only one way, surrendering to Krishna. And there is no other way that one can cut all this, as we see further in this purport, that the branches are too many, and we, with our own efforts, may attempt to start cutting it down, but it will grow again and again and again. So it is very difficult to uproot it right from the root. So again, here Prabhupada says, pious and impious activities are actually due to ignorance, because a living entity as an eternal servant of Krishna has no need to act for his personal sense gratification. So if you see here that material activity is done for the personal self, his personal sense gratification, and this leads to both pious and impious activities. I mean, it need not be everything is impious, but even if it is self-motivated and pious, it is something that starts gathering karma for us. So therefore, as soon as one is reclaimed to platform of devotional service, then he relinquishes attachment for both pious and impious activities. In the beginning, as we start our sadhana practice, we slowly um, go away from impious activities. We start doing the pious activities and slowly move from the platform of ignorance to passion to goodness. And when this is um, cultivated more and more and more, one can come to the platform of true devotional service. Since Maharaj Parikshit was a great devotee, the answers of his guru, Sukadeva Goswami, concerning Karma Kanda and Jnana Kanda could not satisfy him. Therefore, Sukadeva Goswami, knowing very well the heart of the disciple, explained the transcendental bliss of devotion service. The word Kechit means very few people, but not all. And here, Prabhupada again references Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says, Manitvana Pasresu Kaschet Yadati Siddhaye. Out of many thousands of men, one may endeavor for perfection. And of those who achieve perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. And this is something that we should contemplate, that practically no one can understand Krishna because he cannot be understood through pious activities or elevated speculative knowledge. By reading these purports of Prabhupada, both in Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, it has to humble us more and more that how vast the knowledge is and how vast the creation is and how vast Krishna is, and then something that is by our material nature inconceivable for us to comprehend. And when Krishna says there are thousands of men, one may endeavor for perfection, and of those, hardly one knows me in truth. So then it's like thousands, one among thousands, and one among those thousands. So it's practically impossible for us to even understand this. So how is it that we can reach the stage of pure devotional service? So further, Prabhupada quotes Srila Rupa Goswami that one should render transcendental loving service to Supreme Personality of Godhead Lord Krishna favorably without desire for material profit or gain through fruitive activities. So again, when we go through Bhagavad Gita, we see that there are four types of people. People who want material gain, people who are in some distress and want something, and finally, the fourth stage are people who want nothing but to offer service to Krishna. And it is not that the four different kinds of people who offer service are not dear to Krishna. And Krishna wants everybody to get onto this. So anybody who makes even a fraction of an effort, Patram Pushpam Palam Toyam, that even with a little bit of devotion offers anything. So then this stage has started. We have taken the first small steps, and Krishna is appreciative of even those small steps that we take. It is not that one has to be a fully perfect devotee, and even when one has a little tinge of devotion in the heart and starts taking the first steps. Krishna again says that you take the first steps, and the remaining what you lack, I will carry and ensure that you come to me. So this is the level of surrender with which we have to approach devotion service. Further, Prabhupada says non-devotees must undergo material hardships because they are prone to commit sinful fruitive activities and desires, and this continues because due to ignorance. So when we continue living in material life attracted by Maya, and we continue to perform activities which are either pious or impious, we have to understand that there is still tinges of ignorance that reside within us, and we are still like bound by all three modes of ignorance, passion, and goodness, and we have not completely um, gotten rid of each of these things. So this is something that we have to constantly remind ourselves that we have to somehow get rid of this ignorance. And here Prabhupada talks about sinful activities being divided into three categories and two divisions: prarabdha and aprarabdha. Prarabdha is one that is suffering at the present, and aprarabdha refers to something that is potential suffering which is going to come because of things we have done in our past lives or earlier in our life which we are not aware of. Bija are these sinful reactions or seeds which have not yet fructified. This is something that is not conceivable by us, and is something that, um, yes, should we be fearful and live in fear of that? I don't think so, but then one would tend to not be able to perfect one's sadhana and devotional service. One has to not, yes, it is something we have to be fearful and conscious of. And I think last chapter, Prabhupada talked of mindfulness. One has to be very careful and mindful of whenever one is doing certain actions. But if every action is going to be done in fear, then it is very difficult. When we start looking at every step, am I doing this correctly? Once you surrender to Krishna, you would not have such thoughts in your mind, and one would become slowly more and more fluent in practicing devotional service. So these seeds, they are unlimited, and no one can trace when they were first planted, because prarabdha is what is already fructified, and we may already be suffering from some of these, either due to health or our positions or the fluctuations in material lives. These are all explained by prarabdha. Aprarabdha is something that is going to happen, and that's, like I said again, we cannot live in total fear of that because those seeds have already been sown. So again, Krishna tells Uddhava that, my dear Uddhava, devotional service in relationship with me is like a blazing fire that can burn to ashes all the fuel of sinful activities supplied to it. So how devotional service vanquishes these reactions of life is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam, where Lord Kapila Deva instructions to his mother Devavati. My dear Lord, even if a person born in a family of dog eaters hears and repeats the chanting of your glories, offers respects to you, and remembers you, he is immediately greater than a Brahmana and is therefore eligible to perform sacrifices. Therefore, what is to be said of one who has seen you directly? So, this again is very important and stresses the um, um, how you can be a practicing Brahmana, but if there is no devotion in the work that you do, then it is of no use. So, we have seen many references where people not born in the Shudra caste um, have such great love and affection for the Lord that they transcend that of any. They are true Vaishnavas. They transcend anybody who is Brahmanical also. So then that is very important that although one is practicing one's dharma, it has to translate to dovetailing that with devotion. That is something that you do as the action because you are born in this material life, but that has to get dovetailed to devotion, else it is of no use. A person whose heart is always attached to devotion service is immediately released from all sinful reactions. And these reactions generally exist in, which we already see, that it's in either in the form of a seed, is unmanifest, or some are current. So Again, in the final few verses, Prabhupada is talking of bhakti. Bhakti can be divided into two divisions. One is santata or devotional service, that is incessant with love, and kadachit, which is not continuous but is awakened sometimes. Incessant flowing devotional service may also be divided into two, that is provided with slight attachment and spontaneous devotional service. So these are again different stages of devotional service which one would attain as one continuously practices one sadhana and comes to this level. Finally, Prabhupada writes that Srila Jiva Goswami expresses the opinion that even if one has a desire to commit sinful reaction, the roots of that desire are vanquished mainly by abhasa rupa bhakti. So he says the example of Bhaskara, the sun, is most appropriate. Abhasa feature of bhakti is compared to dawn, and the accumulation of one's sinful activities is compared to fog. Since the fog does not spread throughout the sky, the sun has to manifest only a first few rays, and the fog immediately disappears. So an Abhasa Rupa Bhakti is the slight glimpse of devotional service. That itself is powerful enough to dissipate the fog of sinful life, and um, it basically even the desire to commit sinful reactions from there on. So it's something that through our sadhana we have to come to this slight glimpse of devotional service, and from there progress in these stages of devotional service to make use fully of this body, this life that we've got, this human form of life. That is a true aim for this. Hare Krishna. Would somebody else like to add to this, please? Hare Krishna, Prabhu. You come?
Prabhu, he come, I think. He will get to guide us.
Hare Krishna. That's a nice explanation, Prabhu. So yes, if someone else has any comments or something to say about this is a very interesting purport.
Prabhuji, we didn't cover the last purport which you said you would do today. That was verse 13 and 14. We directly started reading this, but then we realized that this is even more serious than the previous one.
Yes. So I think you have already covered the previous one also.
No, we did not. We left for you.
So yeah, so previous to this, like just to quickly brief up, like because since you already done more important thing, the thing is like in the yesterday's purport, in the Bhakti Marg, the path of devotion, one must strictly follow the regulative principles by first controlling the tongue. Sevon mukhehi jibhado swayam eva spuratyata. See, so now we have talked about the glimpse of bhakti, purifying one's heart of all the desires of sinful activities also. So, but when we are still in the material nature, when we are still sinful, when we have still committed sinful activities, when we are still suffering from the reactions of past sins, there is some degree of purification that we do need. So that's why Krishna is dedicating 6 chapters to the process of purification only. Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, then action in Krishna consciousness, then again Sankhya Yoga or Dhyan Yoga. Because purification is needed. Even if a devotee is now chanting the holy names and rendering devotional service, he is not pure. So before the stage of purity can come, one still has to undergo purification. I mean, this logic is like this, that simply by chanting of the holy names, one can be completely purified. Then why do we need to take bath in the morning? Because the body, the consciousness is still affected by tamoguna, so we need to purify ourselves. So therefore, this disciplinary activity of purification is necessary. Yukta ahara viharasya yukta cheshtasya karmasu yukta sapnavabodhasya yogo bhavati dukkhaha. So one has to balance himself. Like we have seen in Ashtanga Yoga, Yama Niyam, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, first 5 steps. So those are all like, disciplinary actions. So Yukta Ahar, Yukta Vihar, Yukta Cheshta, Yukta Swapnavabodh. So that means one should Ahar and Vihar, one should eat in moderation, one should even have entertainment in moderation, one should work in moderation, and one should sleep and dream in moderation. In this way, one can avoid one can avoid miseries of this life. Because, like Rajdhani Express is running at full speed, you can't just stop it immediately. It has to stop gradually. So our sinful activities and or you can say our material desires are running in full flow. We cannot put them to an immediate end. So they have to be gradually slowed down. So yukta ahara vihar, yukta cheshta karmasu, yukta swapnava avabodhasya. So gradually, step by step. So by regulation, slowly you go on regulating yourself because you are already rendering devotional service. These desires are already coming under control. These activities are already coming to a halt. By regulating, gradually you are bringing them to a complete stop. So in this way, by following the disciplinary activities of what we call the sadhana bhakti, one can gradually purify himself. And then as he goes on stopping the sinful activities, goes on regulating them, more and more, one develops a taste for bhakti. So these regulative principles are necessary. One cannot be dancing with beautiful women and claiming to be a devotee. That is nonsense. One has to observe brahmacharya. Then when one renders devotional service, one will enjoy it. So this happiness and misery, it is coming because of material contact only. Matra sparshastu kaunteya, shita ushna sukha dukkha da. So one should understand that even this happiness is coming from material contact. Misery is coming, happiness is also coming. So the so-called experience of happiness in this material nature is also a conditioning factor. That is also conditioning us into the material life. So by reducing this sparsha, by reducing this contact with material nature, we can gradually go on purifying ourselves. Agama payino nityastam stitikshasva bharata. So learn to tolerate. One cannot say, hey, I'm a devotee, happiness is fine. No, that is also dangerous. Both happiness and misery will be a cause of misery. So gradually one has to go on reducing his contact with material nature. That is the way in which one can purify himself. Of course, in the next step, then Shukdev Goswami directly talks about Kechit Kevalaya Bhaktya Vasudeva Parayana Agam Dhunvanti Kartsnena Niharam Iva Bhaskara. So, of course, by following these regulative principles, one comes to the platform of Brahman, then one can render devotional service. Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma na Shochatina Kankshati Samaha Sarveshu Bhuteshu Mad Bhaktim Lavte Param. So to reach that stage, one has to observe the regulative principles. Without regulative principles, bhakti or the so-called image of bhakti is actually sahajya. That is complete nonsense. That has no value at all because one will still hover on the materialistic platform. Hare Krishna. Yes, any questions or comments here?
Beautiful explanation, Prabhuji. This is, I think, a chapter, verse 8, verse 1, chapter 8 or chapter 9 of Bhagavad Gita, no? Bhakti Uttamam. It relates a lot to that. This entire purport, no? That was Bhakti Uttamam, talking about the glories of Bhakti. So very beautifully explained. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yes, any other questions or comments? Okay, then we stop here. We continue tomorrow. And we'll continue with this discussion on the history of life of Ajamil. Very, very interesting topic this one is. So, thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Pranam.
Pranam.